Salutations. I am making this fireside address at the gravesite of the 26th President of the United States, Theodore Roosevelt, the first true president of the 20th century, and who I view as the greatest president of the 20th century. President Theodore Roosevelt, for the context of his time, was one of the most forward-thinking conservatives of his era. President Roosevelt was a conservative in the truest sense of the term, as he was a Federalist. He believed in power vested in the federal government and believed in proactive government, unlike the liberals, who believed the exact opposite. To reiterate, liberalism in the context of Roosevelt's time period meant limiting the power of the central government, deregulating the power of the central government, and yielding more so towards the anarchy of the free market as the best course to attain personal freedom. Theodore Roosevelt would not approve of economic liberalism either in the classic sense of the term or in the modern neoconservative sense of the term. Roosevelt was president at the tail end of the Gilded Age at a time when robber barons, think Rockefeller, J.P. Morgan, Vanderbilt, and Carnegie, ruled without impunity and without checks and balances. Roosevelt would use the power of the central government to rein in their influence. He utilized the Sherman Antitrust Act to break up monopolies, which echoes the contemporary cries of breaking up big tech and big pharma today. TR supported the concept of an 8-hour workday, higher pay, and shorter hours and weekends off for the American working class. TR was not opposed to raising taxes to pay for infrastructural projects, such as the Panama Canal, which would literally cut Panama in half, paid for with American tax dollars, and speed up Atlantic-Pacific sea travel from weeks to days. He won a Medal of Honor, quitting his Secretary of the Navy position to fight in the Spanish-American War, which, while it was technically imperialism, let's not get it twisted. This was also predominantly and primarily done to evict European powers such as Spain from their colonial outpost in Puerto Rico and Cuba, and evict Spain out of the Western Hemisphere. He was also awarded for the Nobel Peace Prize for mediating an end to the Russo-Japanese War. He was an avid hunter. While he was an avid hunter, Teddy was also a conservationist, conserving some tens of millions of acres of land to be protected from development, and used our tax dollars to build up the most powerful navy in the world. TR also passed the Pure Food and Drug Act, which would create the FDA to prevent private corporations from poisoning American citizenry and put the snake oil businessmen out of business. Finally, as president, he was the first to invite an African-American, Booker T. Washington, to dinner at the White House, which during the era of Jim Crow was extremely controversial. And Roosevelt gave not one care in the world. He's like, I'm the president, I can do whatever I want. Roosevelt was also antagonistic to the idea of the United States getting in bed with the British monarchy, and was antagonistic toward old world European monarchies in general. As president, he held boxing matches in the presidential office. He kept a mountain lion, a few hyenas, a peacock, several horses, and many dogs as pets at the White House, and he drank over 2 gallons of coffee per day. He was a soldier, conservationist, historian, a cowboy. He once won a gunfight with his fist. A statesman and the most well-rounded individual the presidency has ever produced. Chuck Norris checks under his bed to make sure that Teddy Roosevelt is not hiding underneath it. During his 1912 run for a third term, the time when he was shot in the chest and managed to deliver a speech for an hour after being shot, TR backed the concept of creating a centralized healthcare system funded by a combination of income tax and tariffs to ensure that all Americans had access to healthcare. He supported the concept of judicial recall, which gave citizens the right to overturn controversial Supreme Court rulings by a vote. He believed that every public school should instruct students how to properly use munitions and train them in life survival skills. He supported the concept of female suffrage and was the type to say, let's not make America great again, but let's make America even greater. In contrast to Teddy was the Republican presidency of Ronald Reagan, who, while was a Republican, was a Jeffersonian Democrat turned Republican. Roosevelt would consider Reagan to be a traitor and not a true Republican. Reagan believed in limiting the power of the federal government, something that was contrary to Roosevelt's vision. Reagan deregulated the FDA so Donald Rumsfeld could profit off the carcinogen aspartame, and he deregulated the FDA so Big Pharma could poison you. Reagan deregulated the market so the successors of Vanderbilt, Carnegie, and Rockefeller could become more powerful. Reagan was also very friendly with the aims of London and helped Margaret Thatcher and the Queen aggressively clamp down on socialism and other states antagonistic towards opening up their borders for the free market to profit from, as a means to force open the markets of hostile nations at the expense of American taxpayer dollars to keep London wealthy and make America more poor. Ronald Reagan was a liberal in every sense of the term, although he called himself a limited government conservative, when limiting the power of the government was and still is a liberal position to hold in the classical sense of the term. In addition to that, Reagan used the CIA to pump crack cocaine into millions of cities as a means to poison African Americans and the working class, and his anti-government policies are what enabled Bill Gates, Jeff Bezos, Disney, and Walmart to become as powerful as they are today. Theodore Roosevelt would accuse anyone loyal to Ronald Reagan for betraying American conservatism, and would accuse anyone who promotes neoconservatism as a traitor to the Republic as a whole, as neoconservatism is in line, which is Jeffersonian liberalism on crack. Its aims are in line with the same aims and objectives as the British Empire, the same British Empire that the United States declared its independence from. While Teddy was not perfect as a product, he was a product of his time. His racial views are certainly most outdated. Teddy believed nonetheless in a greater vision for the United States by utilizing proactive government to protect common interest of the American state from being undermined by the globalist 1% robber barons, and his policy positions should be revisited by contemporary Republicans, which has been undermined by liberal Reaganism for the past 40 years. In closing, purge Reaganism, make Teddy great again, and make America even greater. That is all. God save our American state. This is Comrade Pella, signing out.